month we have been in the month of August. And interesting also, one of the leading issues we'll be taking on in the next 24 hours, Nigeria-Brazil is set to sign a deal to generate massive livestock investment. Part of the deal is that Brazil is supplying over some tractors to boost food production in Nigeria. This also follows a numerical form of over $1.1 billion initiative aimed at supplying 10,000 tractors and 50,000 pieces of equipment to be assembled in Nigeria. The deal is estimated to provide about 100,000 direct jobs and over 5 million indirect jobs. The livestock industry is a very critical agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and one of the big investment strike that Nigeria is having with Brazil is on the livestock industry. And it's expected that the Brazil government will set up an agricultural investment with Nigeria so that the vast expanse of livestock sector in Nigeria will come on stream. And that's why the federal government initially set up the Nigerian livestock industry, particularly with Federal Ministry of Livestock Development in Nigeria, as a way of ensuring that the livestock industry is well governed in Nigerian economy. Joining me all the way from Abuja here is Professor Sadiqat Aderinoye Abdulwahab, who will helping us to understand the livestock industry in Nigeria, as well as the recent signing of deals between Nigerian government and the Brazilian authority on the aspect of agriculture, but basically the livestock industry of Nigeria and Brazil. So she'll be joining me shortly so that we can take a review of the happening in the livestock industry in Nigeria, the recent signing of deal between Nigeria and Brazil, and other issues within the livestock industry, particularly the aspect of pastoralism. Everybody will be asking pastoralism. That is the elders aspect in the agricultural sector of Nigeria. She'll be joining me shortly so that we can have a critical observation, a critical review, and a dissective understanding of that livestock industry in Nigeria. Even though it has become a big news that Nigeria, Brazil are signing one of the biggest deals in Africa, $1.1 billion investment in the livestock industry of Nigeria. So Prof will be joining us so that we can extray it in a more contextualized way and understand the aspect of Nigeria economy going forward. And if Prof is there, let's have a very good day to you, Prof.
Nice to be here.
All right, good to have you, man. So let's get to the bulk of our discussion. As you can hear from our introduction of the discussion today, the livestock industry of Nigeria is taking a new shape. Particularly, just in the last 24 hours, Nigeria and Brazil will be signing some big deals, a $1.1 billion deals in the livestock industry, another related economic aspect of the economy between Nigeria and Brazil. But what is your reaction to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu taking Nigerian livestock industry to Brazil to attract investors into the Nigerian economy?
Thank you. Let me first of all say that I'll be responding to that as a Nigerian. As a Nigerian, generally. I would say it's a laudable one for the federal government through the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to sign those huge deals. It's definitely going to help to boost our economy. But like I said, I'm responding as a Nigerian, just like you and I, because my area of specialization is not into livestock per se. So I would say yes, it's a good one because it's going to benefit the country. I want to believe, I don't have the details of the contracts or the deals that they are signing, but I want to believe it's going to be like an enabler for our economy, particularly the livestock industry.
Very interesting. But said that in the area of that particular question I pushed to you. But what about the supply of tractors and the direct jobs that will be generated from some of these deals that is coming? You are in the agricultural sector, particularly agriculture extension. So what do you have to say about the direct jobs and indirect jobs that is coming up from these deals that we are talking about?
Yes, I was reading the headline today. As an agriculture expert, a professor of rural livelihoods, it's going to be of great potentials for the country because when we have, that huge amount of tractors, it's definitely going to help in boosting our farm mechanization. This will go a long way in helping to alleviate the food security problems that we have.
Very interesting. And in this regard, a lot of Nigeria are very skeptical. Just like you read the headline in the newspaper today, we are seeing comment coming from expert agricultural entrepreneurs talking about how to ensure that these deals will not just be empty at the end of the day. But for my question is, what is your advice to the Federal Minister of Livestock Development to ensure that these deals, really impact Nigeria and we can have results at the end of the day?
There's something that is common. We always have this attitude, political mindset. If the government is spending this much, going into such a huge deal, then we should have that political mindset that would actually propel the actualization of the realization of those fringe benefits that will come along with the deal. So yes, the advice I would have is that we should keep a sincere mind and open mind and ensure that we take those deals to logical conclusion. The objectives, the aim should actually be followed through, such that whatever policy that is around it, whatever contracts, whatever agreements that is around the deals are fully implemented, so that it won't be like, throwing some large amounts of money down the drain. But I want to believe that if the intention is pure and sincere, and government, actually propels the deals, then it's going to be a huge one for Nigeria. Brazil, we know Brazil is very vibrant in terms of agriculture. So the president going in that direction has actually taken a bold step that would help Nigeria. And there can't be anything that should come out of it other than huge benefits for the country. Exactly. Like you mentioned, the direct jobs, indirect jobs. If we have up to 1,000 tractors coming into the country, a lot of farmers will be able to diversify their potentials, productivity will increase, and definitely to help to boost food security for the country. So everyone is going to feel the impact of those deals.
Interesting. And talking about food security in Nigeria, recently you did a paper on pastoralism in Nigeria. And when I went through that paper, and a lot of my colleagues in the media also expressed some of the discussion that you raised in your paper, for many Nigerian viewers who are watching this program, they want to understand that aspect of pastoralism. The question now is that, what is the environment of Nigerian pastoralism so far, from what you have said in your paper and from what we are experiencing right now, talking about pastoral environment in Nigeria?
I would like to state again that I'm an agricultural extension expert. I'm into agricultural extension and rural development, but I specialize in pastoral agriculture. And pastoralism is the heading of cattle, large ruminants, cattle, sheep, goats, camel. So all of these headers that we talk about, they are the custodian of cattle. And in Nigeria, majority of our cattle are in the hands of the pastoralists. So a pastoralist is anyone who depends on livestock, that is cattle, sheep, and goats, and pasture, unimproved pasture.
All right, we're having a network freeze right there, but Prof. Sadiqat is still there. Prof, we can hardly hear you. I think
livestock, when they have it, up to 50% or more, they are usually located in the dry. Yes. Yeah?
Go ahead, ma.
Okay, so the environment of pastoralists. When we talk of pastoralism, we refer to any person whose main source of livelihood centers around livestock, particularly large ruminants, especially if they depend on unimproved pasture for their livestock. So those are the pastoralists. Exactly. So we see them around us commonly, heading their cattle. And this is because climate change and desertification, including land degradation, has necessitated their move from the far north, where they were originally. They have moved to rainforest areas or Guinea savanna areas, that is down south. So because of that, there are altercations, there are conflicts between them and their hosts, who are the farmers. Are you with me?
Yes, go ahead, ma.
Okay, so usually the environment where they are located is the dry region, where they have poor basic amenities, lack of infrastructure. So because they need pasture, that is grass, for their livestock, they went to move to the southern areas where they can have access to water and grazeland. And this is what has been leading to altercation, conflicts between the farmers and the herders.
Interesting, Prof. Well, there's one particular issue that we also need to quickly treat before we go into the technicality of this pastoralism, environment, and the rest of them. One of the key questions I know many viewers will be looking forward to hear or a response from you: how significant are the pastoral to Nigerian food supply chain?
Okay. Like I said, about 80 to 90% of cattle in Nigeria are in the hands of pastoralists. And where do we get our protein from? Meat is a major source of protein for children and for adults as well. And our meat, now, when we talk of livestock, we are talking about generally not only ruminant animals, we are talking about poultry, piggery, and the likes. But in the case of pastoralists now, the cattle are in their hands. So, and they contribute up to 20% to the agricultural GDP. So that's that it is highly significant and important. So it's an aspect that we cannot underestimate for our economy.
Talking about their sustenance, their significance to the economy is quite very huge. I think one of the issues that led to the establishment of Federal Ministry of Livestock Industry, Industry and Development was because of the challenges within that sector, because government felt that if they don't take care of some of these issues within that sector, definitely their contribution to the economy would definitely go down. But from your own understanding of how far government have been helping that sector, what do you still think or see as a missing link to ensure that this sector of the economy is galvanized towards proper inclusiveness in contributing to Nigerian GDP going forward?
The pastoralists, like I said, when they use unimproved pasture, what does that tell us? It means the method in which they use in propagating their livestock is crude. That is their cake methods. So we need to find a way to boost or help them to be able to practice their herding in a manner that will be beneficial and be more productive. So policies that we already have, there are some policies we already have. Government needs to find a way to fully implement those policies. For example, we have the grazing routes. These grazing routes have been gazetted in the 80s and we still have them. So why can't we try and improve that corridor where, cattle corridor, where the livestock farmers, the cattle herders can pass, so that it will reduce the altercations or the interference with the farmers and their hosts. So if they are able to fully implement the use or the adoption of those cattle corridors without necessarily encroaching on it, because again, government in some instances, they're already encroaching on those cattle corridors, such that the herders don't have sufficient grazing land. So if you are able to do some of these things, grazing reserves, we already have them. If they can plant pasture in large number, large expanse of fields of pasture, this will help to reduce the problems associated with livestock production and to help to boost cattle production in Nigeria, thereby increasing the availability of meat and even nourishment to people in terms of protein, milk and cheese, other products from cattle.
Very interesting. All right, Prof. There's one of your key recommendations to the government that you said that we need a smart, innovative, and safe pastoralism. What does that really connote? Let's dismantle all the technicality of words that are there. So let's make it a more understandable to our viewers. When you talk about smart, innovative, and safe pastoralism, what does it really mean?
I will correct that. Sustainable, smart, and safe.
Exactly.
In terms of sustainable pastoralism, we are saying that there should be huge expanse of fields cultivated. There are different grasses that can be cultivated. For example, napier grass. Napier grass is such that its reach harvest period in 3 months, meaning in a year you can harvest it 3 to 4 times. And the major problem with this that is around this herding is feed for the livestock, for the cattle, that is grass. If they have sufficient grass that can grow within 3 months, and this grass can be harvested and converted, processed into hay and silage, meaning all year round, the cattle will have pasture, that is grass, to feed on. That's the sustainable aspect. The smart approach, that is the climate smart practice. If we use resistant breeds, that is whenever you want to keep or rare cattle. Go for those ones that are resistant to drought. So even when there is, high temperature and low rainfall, they are able to cope and survive. Again, there's pasture species. If you want to grow napier grass, plant grasses that are resistant to drought and that can tolerate heat or high temperatures, so that the impact of climate change will be minimized and there will still be adequate grassland for the cattle to feed on. Then the safe approach, as enunciated in my lecture, is that government cannot do short of engaging extension workers. The agricultural extension agents are the ones that are very close to the farmers and the pastoralists. What we currently have now is a situation whereby the extension agents focus more on farmers, that is crop farmers, but they need to actually focus and imbibe or add pastoralists to their main objective. So pastoralists should also be adequately served by extension workers. So when we combine these three together, the sustainable, that is cultivation of grassland, the smart, that is using resistant crop varieties, that is pasture species, and even resistant cattle breeds, and also adding the third, the safe approach, employing extension agents that will focus on livestock farmers. By the time we add these three together, it's going to help go a long way in reducing the conflicts between farmers and herders, in strengthening the resilience of the pastoralists, and at the same time, trying to reduce social insecurity through the extension agents who are able to preach mitigation methods to the farmers, who can also preach intermarriages between farmers and herders, because they live together for long. If they are able to, if they intermarry one another, it will help in reducing the conflicts because they will see themselves as one.
Talking about conflict and talking about food security, we have understood that major food supply chain problem in Nigeria at this point in time is as a rise of insecurity in Nigeria. But you made some recommendation talking about balancing livelihood, balancing environmental, and ensuring a security network or a security concern that will ensure that pastoral farmers and everybody in that food supply chain of Nigeria is taken care of. But I want you to further break this down for us to understand, because in regards of the government, they have created agro rangers, they have alerted police, they have alerted the army and all manner of security network to be on the alert in case of farmers herders clashes, and also ensuring that farmers and herders live peacefully. But from your own recommendation, let's have a takeaway from what you have put together for the government to have a say on.
Okay, yeah, some of the things I've mentioned now in terms of recommendation is that we need to adopt sustainable pastoralism, that is cultivation of grassland intensification, where you have grasses in sufficient amounts for the cattle, then the smart approach too, then the safe approach, that is adoption of extension agents. For as long as we continue to pay a lip service to extend livestock extension, then it's going to be the concentration now is on crop farmers. So there is a need to actually bring in the the livestock farmers, so that we have a holistic approach to it. So what can government do? The policies that we already have, government needs to actually ensure that they are imbibed and executed fully, because it is not in the interest of anyone in the country for farmers and herders to continue to have clashes. But we must know that there is a difference between herders and any form of terrorism or any form of banditry or any form of land grabbing. Herders are those people who depend on livestock for their sustenance, and they rely on unimproved pasture, that is grasses, to feed their livestock. It is also slightly different from livestock production. Because when you talk of livestock production, we are talking of something that is capital intensive. They rely on unimproved methods, ancient methods. So, but they are the custodians. They have the to 90% of cattle that we rely on in the country. So, meaning our source of animal protein largely lies with the pastoralists when it comes to large ruminants, that is cattle, sheep, and goats.
Exactly. Before I let you go, Prof, based on the Brazil deal that Nigeria is going with, we're talking about livestock production and the rest of them. Do you see some of this your recommendation falling through? Because we have seen in the past that grasses from foreign land need to come into Nigeria, planted and the rest of them. I could recall the late Minister of Agriculture, Chief Audu Igbe, said he imported some foreign grasses, but it was never used. But from your own understanding, what more can we get from this Brazil deal based on what you have told us, particularly with species of grasses that we need and the rest of them?
See, these species of grasses are already in the country. We have them in abundance. Yes, I also allude to the fact that the late former minister, Audu actually brought in some species. I think napier grass was also one of those ones they brought. But you talked about the livestock presidential initiative, the LPRES. They are already cultivating these grasses. And I can say categorically that in Kwara State and the University of Ilorin, we already have this napier grass. And some of the farmers and pastoralists are already cultivating it. So they are not entirely foreign. And by the time you bring in those foreign species of grasses, after institutionalizing them here, when they are fully established, we are able to cultivate those grasses on our own. So we shouldn't see them as foreign grasses. They are grasses that can grow on any type of soil, and they require just little water, and they mature in 3 months. Meaning in a year we can harvest up to 4 times. So why won't we cultivate such grasses? And it's highly nutritious for the livestock.
Interesting.
So
Prof.
It's not anything foreign per se.
Exactly.
There are things that we have around us already.
All right. So, Prof, I need to quickly appreciate you. I understand you are going for another engagement in any moment from now, but let me appreciate you for coming on the show, and I also appreciate you for your submission so far. Thank you so much, Professor Sadiqat. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, ma. All right.